Hey y'all, as I was in prayer today, I was asking God what all did He want me to talk about. And as I was praying to God about my life and about, my problems, I realized a tactic of the enemy. So oftentimes the enemy will attack us by using past pain to attack us. Usually it's stuff, he'll bring up stuff that God already talked about and that God already said that He was going to deliver us from. And the enemy will usually remind us about those past pain. And as I was talking to God, I kind of just realized that when the enemy throws back past pain, that's when you throw back past word that God has already spoken to you about. And basically tell the enemy, say, God already delivered me from that. So when he say, oh, this is never going to happen because of this, or oh, that's never going to happen because of that, then you tell him, God already said He delivered me from that. And I am going to choose to cling on to God no matter the circumstance, knowing that His word shall stand. Also, earlier today, I noticed something a little bit peculiar about earlier today. It was kind of weird because I saw birds. I saw birds, but it wasn't just typical birds. It was like a lot of birds was following me as I parked my car. And at first it would be one particular bird, group of birds. So like at first it was a crow, so it was like a bunch of crows. And then as I drove my car somewhere else, it was like a bunch of pigeons that were surrounded, and it was so many of them. It was too many of them to the point where you had to see them. And now as I'm talking to you guys, I realized those birds reminded me of my life and my calling. Because as I was praying to God, I'm like, God, what are you telling me? Like, what is going on? Like, I feel so bad right now. I feel really poopy right now. And just now, like, as I started, like, talking, as I was praying about what I should say on this video, I saw birds just, like, out there, but it looked like they were looking at me, like, waiting for something. And basically now as I'm talking out here, I realized, like, this reminded me of my real life, or what's going to happen is that a lot of people, somebody is waiting for your voice, somebody is waiting for your presence. A lot of times we would be waiting on God to be the answer, and we'll be frustrated with God, but then as we look to our side, we see somebody in a worse position who we can be the answer for, and then it made me think, like, a lot of times we ask God to be the answer, but sometimes God is asking you to be the answer. Like, count the many times God has cried out to you to be the answer, and we found every excuse as to why we can't do that. And so I'm kind of just like realizing that with those birds and everything. In the process of us waiting, God didn't just call us to speak, just to give people hope. He actually called us to do, and He's positioning us based off of our doing, not just our believing. Faith without works is dead. I know earlier in my earlier video I said you can control your life based off of what you say repeatedly. You can shift your life based off of what you say repeatedly. But what you say doesn't have an effect on what you do after that point. So just like you say something at 1 minute, the enemy could come in and say something else, And even though what you said might have impacted you in a more positive way that 1 minute, the moment the enemy comes and says something else, it's like, it's all over. And that's why I believe that God was showing me, in a way, as I was praying. He said some other stuff, but I don't really want to get into all that. But Paul was a really, really strong man. And I think one of the times in the Bible he said, I am not weak. I've been beaten, but I am not weak. I am strong. Like, he was aggressive, But one thing that kept him and that kept his faith was his calling. It was what he was doing towards that calling. And I'm not saying that God's not going to give us nice things, but if you believe that that is where you're supposed to be, I feel like your actions say a lot more than your words. And your life basically depends on that. And people are waiting for you to be the answer to their problem. So be blessed, beloved, and may you prosper and continuously prosper more abundantly. And know that whenever the enemy tries to throw at you some type of past pain, remind the enemy that God has already delivered you from that. For that is what He has already said. So when the enemy say, no, you can't do that, or, oh, you're going to end up there for the rest of your life, and God told you something totally different weeks ago, feel like God has already delivered me from that. And I am going to continue to walk into my calling and act into my faith, because they both connect at some point somewhere, And so I pray that you may have a blessed day and that you may prosper and continue to prosper more abundantly. God bless you.